Alright, welcome back. Today we're not going to talk about Tokyo. Today we're going to talk about Australia. I'm going to share a story about the things I did in Australia and what I got to experience. I think I spent, like a year and a half in total. So we'll dive right into it. First of all, I wasn't really planning to go to Australia. It's never been on my radar. So that was quite random. I spent so much time there. But after visiting some friends in New Zealand, I ran out of money. So I had to go back to Australia to work, and boom, just like that, I got to see a lot of cool things and things I never really thought I would do at all. So I bought a ticket from Auckland in New Zealand, and I flew straight over to Sydney, where what happened then? I was lucky enough to get a job as a sign holder. Yeah, a sign holder. So each day they paid me cash in hand, and that way I could that way I could pay for my hostels. I was like piss broke, and eventually met this Italian guy who we decided to go to Darwin together. So we went up the outback, and then eventually we reached Darwin, and I had no money, and we walked into this hostel, and this Japanese girl is sitting there, and she just got a job on a farm, but her friend didn't want to go to the farm, so she asked like the people around her, like, who wants to go to a farm? And then I just said me. So we went there together, and well, first we had to call the farm, and it was like Vietnamese owners, and they didn't really speak English, so it was quite interesting conversation we had there. It ended up me being like, you, me, pick up Monday, I work farm, and then they picked us up. They picked us up Monday, and then we started the same day. So that was pretty sweet. Um, but even though the owners were like, oh, they didn't speak any English, almost no English, they were so nice. They treated me like their son, and just beautiful people. I also met this old man on the farm. He just told me this crazy story about his when he was younger. He was in a prison in Vietnam during the war, and somehow he managed, and some other guys managed to escape the prison, and they made it over to Australia on a boat. So I actually went to that prison like 6 months later, because he told me all about like how it looked like, and it sounded horrible. And I went there, and it's just, yeah, it was crazy to see that in real time, and it's just it makes you realize how lucky you are not growing up in a war zone like that. Anyway, working on a farm is hard work, 8 to 12 hours per day, 7 days a week. Uh, I lived in this room the first year, and this room the second time I was on the farm, the next year. So if you're like a high class fancy pansy, you might want to think twice before you go to a farm, or don't think at all, just go there. It's definitely worth it. When I worked here, I could save a lot of money because it was like in the middle of nowhere, so there was no way for me to spend my money. I used this money later to travel through Asia and to Japan for the first time, and that's when I sort of fell in love with this city and I decided to come back here. So after Japan, I flew back to Australia, and I ended up on the Gold Coast. Couldn't find a job there, so I went to Caloundra. It's like just north of the Gold Coast, and I worked in a kitchen. I later went to Brisbane, and I worked as a carpenter and a guide slash like stand-up comedian host ish. So these are like random jobs I never thought I would work with ever before I went on this trip. So eventually I returned to the farm, and I managed to save some more money, which I later used to pay for a language school here in Tokyo. So the farm was definitely worth it. And I think it's like one of my big highlights from my stay in Australia. Other than that, Australia is a really beautiful country. Like I said, I never thought about going there beforehand. I was more interested in New Zealand. So It was a pleasant surprise. And if you're planning to go there, I can recommend to go, well, to all the popular places, of course, but if you can save some money and buy a car, you will enjoy your stay way better. They have public transportation, but like, you know, having your own car is definitely worth it. It's such a huge country and big distances, and they have like camping spots everywhere. So if you have a car, it's perfect for us, for Australia. It's such a backpacker friendly country and friendly people everywhere. When we traveled through the outback, we were we met some, like a couple. They were like way older than us, but they invited us to their house, so that can happen. That actually happened quite often in the outback in Australia. Like people will invite you over and yeah, just kind of take care of you. So yeah, it was definitely worth it. And I'll leave you with this little movie I made on the farm. Have a good one and see you next week.